Right, well, I wasn't happy with the way the eyes had worked out on this. I thought they sort of let it down a little bit. So I went back to the drawing board and came up with these. Now this may not be everybody's cup of tea, and certainly how they're made may not be comfortable for some people to do, but I was happy to do it. It involves some close work on a bandsaw, and again, if it's not your cup of tea, then don't do it. This is not a how-to video, this is just how I solved a particular issue I wasn't happy with, and made, I think, a big improvement in what Inky looks like. Okay, I'll take you through the method and show you what I did. So I found myself a bit of ash, chopped it up and roughly squared it, and then I've cut a slither, from it, which I'm going to use to make the eyes. So the next thing I have to do is make the eyes square. So I'm going to use the width of the timber to set the fence, and then I've got a nice square in that end. I'm just going to cut the eye. Right. So after that first piece bit in, I'm just going to make myself a nice little zero tolerance insert from this piece of scrap material, and then just pin it in place with a clamp so that we don't have that happen again. And then I can just adjust the fence so it misses it. And then by holding against the sides, I can just feed it through and make so there we have a nice little square. I'll just sand that up clean, and then we're ready for the next step. I want to set this fence to about a third of the width of the piece, which would be about there. Right, again, I'm going to recut the fence. And refix it. Now what I'm going to do is just lift the back fence, which I can do on this, so it goes above my zero tolerance, and get that in reasonably tight against the blade. And then what I'm going to do, very carefully minding my fingers, is to feed that onto the blade until it's cut about halfway into the piece. So let's do that now. Again, this is a watch your fingers and be careful moment. I'm going to keep my fingers well behind and out of the way. There you get a cut about half the way through the board. Now I'm going to turn it and do that on another side, so at 90 degrees. Again, minding the fingers. Until I end up with that. Now what I need to do is put a cut in from each side just to cut away the excess material, which will leave me this larger square. Again, this is not for the squeamish, and if you're not comfortable doing it, don't do it. I now need to cut about half the width of that piece. You could use a sacrificial piece behind this if you wanted to. Again, I'm just going to run this zero tolerance. that in place. So again, being very careful, I'm just going to feed this along the fence very slowly and just cut away the excess on the two sides, like so. That's the first cut. We end up with a nice neat little square. I can now paint the pupil black. I'm probably going to spray lacquer it this time rather than trying to work with the shellac finish, and then we'll get on to adapting Inky. Right, while those dry, we're going to try and see if we can sort out Inky's eyes. What I need is a good sharp chisel or two. So what I'm going to do is try and flatten out the eye area and actually cut them a bit more neatly to size, very carefully with hand tools. And we can see if we can make a nice little recess for the eyepieces to fit into. I've got a couple of spares which will be for Pacman when we make him. So basically they need to fit like that and replace what's there. So what I've got to do is just dig out the old pupil and try and mark carefully where the new eye is going to fit. It's actually pretty much the same size. We've done really well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is carefully see if we can work out. I'm just going to sharpen this chisel up a bit. Let's see if we can carefully cut out the pupil and create a little bit of a flattened recess. Better. I think the chisel was just a bit blunt. So just before I fix the eyes, which are just drying now, I've re-blued the eye sockets so that when we lay the replacement one in, we'll get a nice clean finish, I'm hoping. I'm not going to seal this because I want to make the wood glue to make a decent bond. I'm just going to let everything dry and then we'll put it all together and see what we've got. So there we have him, the revamped Inky with his new eyes, and I quite like the way that's come out. I'll certainly use the design on the next step, which will be in the next video, which is going to be Pacman. See you then.